us.
No, I think I'll let us.
All right. Hopefully. Okay.
Hi, I'm Russ.
Hi, I'm Terry with Heart of Peace Counseling. Welcome.
Hi, tonight we're going to discuss a book called The Body Remembers?
Nope, The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, The Body Keeps the Score, sorry. I just woke up from a nap not too long ago. It's by Dr. Kolk, and he is with the founder of the Trauma Center in Boston, Massachusetts. And his book was written and copyrighted in 2014. So we're just going to jump right in and talk about some of the topics of the first two chapters tonight and get Terry's input on some of these topics. So our first topic that we're going to introduce tonight is the effects of trauma.
So one of the reasons I love the book is I recommend it for all my clients. It really gives experience in talking with that you can really go in and look at and be able to understand that your trauma, whether it's big or small, is really going to affect you. And it's really going to interact with things. Mm-hmm. And so as an introduction of affecting us, I think we were just talking earlier, like one of the things for me, trauma affected me and I get scared. I will do really weird things out of fear because I don't want to be hurt, because my history is a history of hurt. And so I have little protectors that try and protect me. The other thing is sometimes it's how people talk, how people interact. Mm-hmm. You ever just been around somebody and you're like, something's just not going well?
Yeah, and see, my defense is to be the village idiot. So it all works, right?
He does really well at the village idiot. We do want to just kind of notice, I actually got to lean forward here. I see Natalie's on, and Lisa, and Paula. So I want to say hi. We're still getting this live thing, so grow with us as we're trying. I thought that if I have my little iPad here, I'd be able to see your guys' comments, and that's not quite working as well, so I'm going to keep trying. But here we go. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to try and make this work so I can see your comments down here. All right, Russell, so we were talking about the effects of trauma.
And I think something that you and I have talked about the last couple of weeks is trauma is different for everybody.
Yes.
You know, and it's at different levels, and what may affect you as a traumatic event may not affect me as a traumatic event. And kind of what we've turned to is that just little pieces of trauma can add up.
Yes.
To affect you in the big picture. Let's talk about that for a minute.
I have a little stacking thing over there that I use in my office. So hold on, let me show you what I use in my office a lot. Little kid's toy, but I reference this a lot in regards to trauma. Oftentimes we have this little thing and we think we're good, we're fine. You know, two little traumas aren't much. But over time, what happens is trauma can get stacked up, or you can get a really big trauma and it can really stack up. And it ends up affecting us. It affects our body, how we interact with people. People who kind of knew me before I did my trauma work would say I wasn't a nice person, and I admit to that. Like, I was so busy trying to survive and live that I couldn't be me. After my trauma work and some of the stuff that I've done, I love color again. I've begun to enjoy the holidays. I am more friendly and personal, where I really became secluded, like just inward. And it really affected me. And so, like, I love my friend Misty. If she's watching this later, hi, Misty. We actually went up to Park City one day, and we were talking up there in the hot tub later. And she's like, Terry, what happened to you? You're different. And I want to say, it gets noticed. When you worked on your trauma, it gets noticed when you've healed from it.
So going back to your cube demonstration there.
Yes.
So trauma,
You use it.
Trauma doesn't have to be all the same, right?
Nope.
It can build up over time, and
they can stack upon each other.
And stack.
Like,
and so it's not like for example, Terry and I are both widowed, so we're going to use that as an example. So we have the trauma of losing our wife, and that would probably our spouse,
husband. I lost a wife.
For us, that would probably be a pretty big chunk of this trauma, but maybe you got a few things going on from childhood that you're still dealing with that you never addressed.
Well, like with me, I had stuff from childhood that stacked upon, and my poor husband loved me to death and was really good with it. Yeah. But sometimes I wonder, what the heck would he have gotten better of a wife had I just done the work that I did after I lost him? Because my childhood stuff really rooted in things. My childhood, and I would say, oftentimes we think, oh no, it's just my current stuff.
Yeah.
there's usually kid stuff there.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be big stuff like being sexually abused or physically abused, but it can be being bullied or an event that you go to that just leaves a bad aftertaste.
Yeah, I mean, and I think often, I'm not from a military family per se, but I meet those people that they say they're a military brat and they've traveled around, and to me, that would be trauma for me, because I grew up in the same neighborhood. I went to elementary, junior high, high school with the same group of people. And if I had moved around, I think that would have been something that I would probably be dealing with now. That's just me, and maybe the people that are military brats have dealt with it.
Well, think about that. Think about having to move, because I moved. I was born in Bountiful. We moved to Montana. From Montana, we moved to Idaho. From Idaho, we moved to Washington. And every time, like my best friend Katie, hey Katie, if you're watching this, she didn't like me at first until we had a moment. And when we had that moment, we became best friends and life went on. But it was hard to move from place to place. You have to make new friends, new people. And even a little move, to us as adults, as parents, we think, oh, that's nothing. But when you sit back and look at it from a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old, it's a big thing. And it can be a big thing for them. I think that is one of the biggest things, kind of misconceptions that can happen, is as parents, we think, oh, that's nothing. Oh, that's small. Because as adults, we have an adult brain that looks at things differently.
Yeah.
But from a 2-year-old brain, a move can be devastating.
Yeah.
Losing a best friend, a loss of a parent, having family members divorce, those can be traumatic.
Yeah.
And they can be increasingly traumatic based on how they interact and things like that.
Yeah. So is it fair to say, Terry, that trauma happens to everybody?
Yes. It was actually interesting. The book talks about that. There was a great little sentence, and I'm going to make it short, but the thing is trauma affects me, it affects you, it affects everybody. It is not just a one thing. On top of that, it also affects generations. So I have effects of my body and my system from things that happened generational back. Generational trauma is a real thing. I use the reference in my office. When my mama was giving birth to me, I was already producing the eggs. I'm going to say this wrong, so let me go back. So when my mother was being born, she had already had all of her eggs being created and in her body when she was in the womb. And that's her mother giving birth. And it goes back like our genes. And if you think about how genes work and everything and how they spread and everything, you get generational trauma. Like some of your stuff that you can go through has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're in the womb and your partner is abusing you physically, that energy that's going on in my body is going to affect that. Or if I'm the person who's the abuser and I am being aggressive or whatever, that energy within that body of that child that's in me is going to feel it. A good way to look at that is Dallin, I'm a type 1. Dallin's blood sugars were affected by me because we shared that blood. And so you can get, again, trauma because of what I'm going through, and you're not even born yet. And again, hence the name of the book, The Body Keeps Score. Our bodies have a memory network. They really do, and it really affects things.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen because, you're so tied to your DNA and your family history. And, something that's comforting to me is this is all genetic. Okay? In spirit form, I'm like super hot. I know
yes,
that.
he is.
But yeah, we're destined to be a accumulation of our DNA. So let's talk a little bit about the rational brain. That's kind of a new concept for me.
Okay. So there's a good way to talk about this is the fight or flight response. So one of the things I really want to, or freeze response, okay? Sometimes we literally freeze. But our bodies are set up to survive. We are meant to survive, and so we will respond like that. But the problem is the logic brain, it's got a tailwind, and it takes a little while to check up, and sometimes it doesn't check in for quite a while. And so when you're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, sometimes it's not correct. Like we feel like a bear's chasing us, but there isn't a bear chasing us, right? And so our body's in that trauma response, and we can't get the logic brain, the rational brain, to check back in. And it's really important because part of the rational brain is what is our thinking brain, right? And so if we're just in emotions, we can't think, we can't process. But at the other side of that, we're supposed to live. We're supposed to be like, our body thinks, because the chemicals that are being produced are the chemicals that say, hey, there's a bear coming after you. You're going to die.
Yeah.
But we can't think about that and get our logic brain to step in and go, oh, I'm not as in much danger as I am. Or we are in danger and we're trying to survive and we are just in emotions. We're trying to make it, or we're trying to get an argument to stop, or we're trying to get away from the situation. We can't logically get out of it. And sometimes to get out of it, we get ugly.
Yeah.
I've done it. Like because like sometimes Dallin can be a little, and I can yell because I'm like, I just want it to stop. I just want it to stop. And so it gets me in my stuff, even though I've done my work, it can still kind of affect me because it gets me going. And I just want it to stop.
Is that maybe why I was in a car accident several years ago? I was sitting at a traffic light and I was going north-south, and the traffic that had the right-of-way was going east-west, and a car going east turned while a car was coming west and collided. And I could see, it was literally in slow motion, I could see that accident sliding towards my car. Look at the passengers in the other car being flipped around, and everything seemed in slow motion. Would that be kind of this?
Yes. So again, the chemicals are going and your body's just trying to live. So if it thinks, again, it is set up to be faster than you can even realize to go.
I knew I had to brace myself, but everything just seemed so slow.
Yes, and so that slow down is your body trying to process, like trying to figure out, do I fight? Do I flee? Do I freeze? Like, what do I need? It is innate gift in our body is that we are meant to live. We are meant to. Our bodies, I talk with some of my clients who struggle with suicide, and I say, you know what? Your body is so meant to live that we use drugs. We use means of other things. Like if you're swimming, think about that. Think about times that you're swimming, you're like, I can't get my breath. Your body is trying to live because it is an innate gift from whatever power you call it to live. And so your body, part of that innate gift is this flight, fight, or freeze response coming in like this and trying to get going ahead of things because it wants to live. It wants to live. Yeah. And that's why depression and things like that can get so hard. Yeah.
So like when like I've been through this example where your boss or maybe your spouse is just yelling at you and you look like you give them the deer in the headlights look, which makes them madder because you're not responding to their anger. That would be flight or fight as well, right?
That's a freeze. So that non-response is that. And they have a new terminology. It's called the Fawn Response, but it's that freeze. Like
you're yelling at me, and my brain doesn't know how to react to this.
Yes, like it just shuts down. Your body literally. Think about moments when you've been in something and you've just shut down. Again, a great example of this is when you're in a relationship, and if you start to notice that shutdown, maybe you should get in to see somebody because in a healthy relationship, we shouldn't be shutting down. Again, hard discussions happen. We need to take a break if it gets agitated, things like that. But if you're shutting down, that has more to do with a trauma response and things like that.
Yeah. And we'd just like to take a quick note real quick. If you have a question while you're watching this, please type it in the comments.
And I'm going to check in here to see, because I see a couple things here.
And Terry will do her best to answer them right now.
Can I rotate my phone?
Okay.
Yes, I can do that.
Oh, that hurt.
You just want to see more of Russell.
That hurt. I need to tip it down just. There you go. There, perfect.
Thank you for that, Lisa.
Hopefully that looks better for y'all.
Okay, I just want to see if there's anybody else. Okay. I didn't see any comments, but we will double check the comments too.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so if you have a comment, please type it in and we'll do our best to answer it right now. Or Terry will look at these afterwards as well and reply.
We'll comment. And then we're going to be doing continued other series on this book. We're going to be going through the whole book bit by bit. And so we will address them.
Yeah, and if you'd like to buy a copy of the book, we're not promoting, we get no commission or anything off it.
Not yet.
But it's on Amazon. You can do the Audible version or paperback.
Or both. I have both. There's even a workbook. There's actually a couple workbooks, and I will post which one I have and stuff. Sometimes you just need, again, especially when you've been in trauma, your brain really takes a moment to get clicked in. Yeah. And so sometimes you've got to do things differently.
Well, and I've noticed in our chats that we've had the last couple of weeks in preparing for this program that you've kind of made me go back and remember things.
Sweet, I did my job.
And so I'm going to just share a brief experience real quick. So I grew up in the Common Heights area, and there was this family that was just dirt poor, and everyone knew who they were. And, you know, of course they got made fun of a lot, bullied a lot. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my older brother, and I said, I wonder whatever happened to, and, you know, and he remembered them the same way I remembered them. And then what was funny is just yesterday, I got a call from a high school friend I haven't talked to in like 20 years. And we were talking. I said, hey, do you remember that family? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he had the exact same experience with them. And it's just, you know, bringing up these things. And I said to my older brother, and I also said to my friend, I said, you know, I hope they all became very successful and you know, despite their upbringing. And, you know, and it's so what the point I'm making is that, you know, talking to Terry has brought up some things that I haven't thought of in a long time.
Aww.
You know, and so, you know, and we were talking just before we went on the live here that about a childhood accident, and we'll talk about that maybe next time. But let's get to...
Well, before you go there, I did want to say something. So when I talk about the effects that it can be lifetime, so I will admit I suck at spelling, I suck at grammar, and yet I have a master's degree. I also admit that I failed out of college 5 times before I got that. Losing my husband seemed to be the motivator that got me back. The reason I'm saying that is because I was so busy going through the traumas and things that I was going through as a child. Again, my parents were great. They didn't know it wasn't anything like that. But I was so busy trying to survive in my life as a kid that I couldn't show up to learn. My brain didn't have the capacity. I did okay in school, but I was so busy trying to survive, trying to take care of myself, trying to do all those things that I couldn't show up to learn. And so that's another way. So when we look at kids who are struggling in school or that they might be not doing as well, look at their trauma history. Look at maybe they need to get in and get some healing to that so that their brain can show up. Because really, your brain can't show up to learn and do when it's so busy trying to survive.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's talk about top-down medications, bottom-up, some of these buzzwords that we've been talking about here with this book. What do those mean exactly?
Okay, so with the top-down, a way of dealing with trauma oftentimes is talk. We talk it through. Think about a time that you've been through something. We go to our girlfriends, we go to our boyfriends, we go to people. Russell now has boyfriends. We go to our... Side note. Anyways, but we go to those people and we talk it. And so the talking, the top up is that head part. We talk it, we process it, or we'll go talk to a therapist and we talk it through. The other part is the meds. Oftentimes we'll go to meds, and even to the point, again, this is where we get addicts and things like that and addictions. It's because we try to numb it. Meds really do numb. They really do affect things. And in truth, I have to be careful when I'm processing with people that they can come in too medicated, or if they are using marijuana and stuff like that, I'm like, I need you to 24 hours, 48 hours, not use it before you come in, because your brain can't show up because it's too numbed down. Yeah,
and I've seen that with people that I think that are overly medicated, or
they're using medication to try and heal.
Yeah, and they're going to 2 different doctors, and these doctors aren't talking, and they have them on meds that don't compete well. You know, and it messes up with things.
Well, and then the bottom down it's the body approach. It's where you allow your body to be able to heal. You work and do things to heal your body. And that can be things like neurofeedback is a great way to help with trauma. EMDR is a great way to help with trauma. Yoga. People don't realize, but yoga is a good way. Theater, talking, and when I mean theater, what I mean by that is acting it out, playing it, being able to present your story in actual action and things like that. And then just talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, just, it can help. Again, everything's different, and sometimes you need a mix. I know when I'm doing EMDR with clients, I'll encourage them to go get massages and things like that, because it can be really helpful.
I was going to ask you about that. Is is going through identifying your trauma as part of the therapy? Is it physical touch, like a massage?
For some people, again, it's a matter of finding what you need. For some people, it's not. I highly recommend EMDR. I think it works really amazing, especially when you're going to somebody who's well certified, well trained in it. You're going to see some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But massage can also help. If you think about when, like, you get in a car accident, your body's going to that muscle network's going to tighten up, and it's going to hold all that energy that's going on. And so getting a massage can help release that. It can help work that through. It can even help open up your brain to be able to think more clearly and things like that. So I'm a big fan of massages. I'm a big fan for steam rooms, hot tubs, things like that, to work those toxins through, and especially after you work and process, to just kind of help plunge, oh my goodness, to help kind of purge and cleanse the body, to help release those energies.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you just a few minutes ago that when we talk about the bottom up, the effects that trauma has on the body, it's kind of like being in a car accident, where you need to let that muscle or that part of your body heal. You know, it's like having a sprained ankle. So allowing your body to feel that trauma, but also recognizing that it's a part of the healing process.
Oh, and you just said a good word. One of the things that I really want to make note of is that you need to feel. You can't heal and not feel. If you think that you can just chop off your emotions and everything's going to be okay, good luck healing. You really, part of the work that I do, and especially when I'm dealing with somebody who's like, they know that they were abused as a young child, or they witnessed abuse and things like that, because again, trauma, it doesn't have to be just what we go through. It can be what we can see, what we hear about. We were talking earlier about, like, remember 9/11 for you, those of you who are around. We turned off the TVs because we were watching people jump out of windows. We were seeing all this traumatic stuff, and it was affecting us. And we weren't even there. Like, we weren't there, and it was still affecting our body. And so knowing that that can affect things is really important. But in regards to that, you got to be aware that you have to feel. You have to let your body feel. And sometimes when I'm working with, again, going back to that earlier statement of the younger kids who have experienced something, like, I don't have a memory network. But this goes back to the reason I love this book, is because the body keeps the score. Your body has a memory network. And you don't have to have words to that memory network. And that's where a good EMDR or the right therapist in regards to helping you connect to that can really help, because you can heal very early. I've known therapists who've helped people heal from having a traumatic, like their birth was traumatic, like the cord was wrapped around their neck and stuff like that. And when you really get in touch with your body, you can feel that and work it through.
Well, I think some of us that have lost our spouse would maybe remember that part of grief that was physical pain, and that's kind of what we're talking about here is
that physical pain. And for us, that, I mean, I have both, but those who've been through the trauma, there is a pain. Your body hurts. Your body aches. It's hard. It's hard to sit there and emotionally watch your parents argue and fight and stuff. It's hard and hurtful to see you getting hurt or bullied and things like that. I have high school memory. I was bullied in high school. But again, I was the weird duck because I had my trauma. Like, my trauma made me not fit in because I was too busy trying to survive.
And I can see that happening. You know, because we go through trauma, and I think part of it, our mechanism that our body has as a reaction, is to close down and to
and protect and to hide, and we think it's safe. Like, think about again, oftentimes you see little pictures of little kids in like a traumatic event hiding in a corner and stuff like that, because our body innately, part of that fight, flight, or freeze part is trying to survive, and survive is hide. If you can't see me, you can't hear me, then I'm safe. But that doesn't mean, because we are people that we touch, we got all those five senses. We've got taste, we've got touch, we've got sight, we've got hearing, we've got whatever one I'm missing.
Taste, sight, touch,
Anyway, we're missing one, but you have all those things. And so even though you might be covering your eyes, you can still hear. Or even if you're deaf, you can still see. Even though you're like deaf and mute, you can still taste. Like, we have all those things, and so those things bring memories.
And something that Terry and I have talked about as well, and you just touched on a few minutes ago, is we come from that, our parents were part of that greatest generation that we refer to, where we didn't talk about things. Okay,
let's correct something.
Okay.
Yes, it's your generation, but it's been going on for generations.
Yes,
we have generation after generation after generation. I love watching my older people and interact, and I had an experience where I watched some interaction, and it was just like, stop talking. No, we can't talk about this. We can't. No, and this is part of the reason for the video.
And it's time to start talking about.
We need to talk about trauma. We need to make it an open discussion. Again, we don't talk about suicide, and oftentimes suicide behind it are effects of trauma, unhealed trauma, and things like that. And these are topics that we don't talk about. It's the don't go there,
don't talk about it.
But the truth is, it's a part of life, and we need to start having that discussion, and we really need to start talking about it, and we need to humanize it and let people know that this is real and this happens. Death happens, accidents happen. Injuries happen. It's not something to hide from. It's something we need to talk about. Because in truth, I think our society's getting messed up because we don't talk about trauma enough. We come from that. Doesn't exist. This pile isn't here. Like, even though his arm's sticking out in Timbuktu land, and there's all this trauma back here, it doesn't exist. That didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And I often think how my parents' life would have been different, which would have affected my life had they dealt with the issues of their childhood and different things that they were dealing with as adults.
Oh, I agree. I think that looking back over the history, I look at some of the things and I think generations, like, how would things be different? How would things with our officers be different if we took care of their PTSD? How would things be different in a hospital? How would things be different in our family? How would things be and look and work if we just healed the injuries? And they can be. They can be healed. And that's another point that I really want to make is I'm doing this because I believe in it and I know. I really feel like I want you to know, I want you to come along for this journey on this book. I think many of you have the opportunity to listen to us instead of reading it and be able to walk away and go, maybe it's time I go in. Maybe it's time. And again, it doesn't have to be big things. Again, just fighting with your partner can affect you and can be traumatic.
Fighting with yourself.
Fighting with yourself. Again, think about, well, no, you're serious, but think about those negative beliefs that go in your head. I'm too fat. I'm too this. I'm too that. Like, all those negative things we say about ourselves, it has a toll.
Well, we talked about kind of my term. I'm going to take credit for coining this term.
Okay,
is we are happy in our misery.
Yes.
Because that's our comfort level. We know, and I just look at people that we help year after year, and they're in the same place that we started helping them 4 or 5 years ago, and here we are helping them today with the same problem. We don't treat the problem, we band-aid it.
We band-aid it, and the truth is band-aids don't work. I'm going to check on the messages here. It says, I bought the book 2 weeks ago, so this is perfect timing. I'm glad, Cassie, you'll love it. We plan to, we're going to try and do this weekly, I think we discussed. So look for it even during Christmas. And we're going to, again, going back to our purpose, we're going to bit by bit into this book. We are coming from a place, and I didn't think we kind of explained this. So Russell's going to kind of play the role of, I got my stuff. I don't realize I got my stuff. He's going to be like afterwards going, holy crud. I.e. the client, and I'm going to come from the place of the therapist. But I'm also going to come from the place of, I've worked on my trauma. I'm still working on my trauma. I have therapy tomorrow with my therapist. Love my therapist. You probably see this too. But that's where we're coming from, and we want to open this discussion, and we want to help you in the process. So if you want to get the book and read along with it, right now we're kind of covering chapter 1. Next week we're going to be chapter 2. We're probably going to hit chapter by chapter is more than what it's likely. But I also want to say, if there's a lot, we're going to break it up. If there's a little, I know there's a lot. But we want to keep this about 30 minutes at the max, so we don't want to max you out, and we're at, I can't see how long, but we're hitting, almost time to go.
Well, and so Terry, that's a great wrap up to this is, buy the book, follow us, what we're talking about.
Join in the discussion. Send them to Heart of Peace Counseling. You can message me on Facebook.
I was just going to say.
You can message me on Instagram under Heart of Peace counseling. There's also Terry Talks Therapy on Trauma on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The video will be posted to Facebook. It will be posted to YouTube. So like, subscribe, and join those things.
Yeah. And if you
John.
And if you have a question, just like Terry mentioned, that you don't want to post in this this broadcast,
Private
message her, and and let's help you to help yourself.
Well, and I will look. I know there's a process of how you can submit things anonymous, so I'll see if I can set that up on Facebook. But private message me. So here's where you get the benefit of the therapist. I'm a therapist, so if you send me something, I'm doing this as a therapist, and so I'm under that. I can't share. I can't share. I can't divulge. I can't say. You've got privacy. Marilyn says, "Oh yes, we will gladly." Thank you, Marilyn. So the book is The Body Keeps the Score. It is by Dr. Kolk, and let me actually pull up a picture so you can see it here.
Yeah, we got our copy off of Amazon, of course, and you can get the Audible version. There's a paperback, and then Terry had mentioned there's also a workbook that sounds very useful.
It does. So keep talking here for a second, just because.
But if there's in this, if there are other topics that you'd like us to discuss, please do so, because I think for the most part we're all kind of from the same audience. We're all have had enough life experience that we can talk about things that have happened to us, and and as we talked earlier, trauma is a building block. It's not just one thing that happened to you in life, and I'm not discounting that, because you may have had one major event that set off trauma in your life, but also what we've learned tonight is trauma builds up over little ticks in your life, and so
it bleeds out.
Yeah.
Trauma bleeds out, and trauma bleeds ugly. So here's a picture, and I'm going to hold it up so you can really see it. It's The Body Keeps the Score. That will be in the title of every Facebook Live. I will make sure to have that. I will post it like crazy, probably drive you all nuts. And that. Again, I'm glad, and I hope this helps. Share. Again, share, like, post. Whoop, whoop. There you go.
And thank you for joining us tonight. And we wish everyone that's been watching a very merry holiday season and a joyous
I wish you a
and
Merry
blessed New Year.
Christmas,
And
but I respect the holiday season too.
And we'll be back next week.
Next week, and we look forward again. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Bye.